Hey, it's James Mulvany and welcome to this video where I am setting myself the challenge to get booked onto 30 podcasts within 30 days. Now, going on a podcast tour, as it's known, it's basically when you go on a lot of podcasts within a short space of time. It doesn't have to be 30 within 30 days. This goal is actually pretty high, so I don't know if I'm going to achieve this, but whether or not I achieve 30 or achieve 25, I'm going to show you the results as they pan out. You know, this video is going to be recorded in real time over 30 days. Today is day one. It's 27th of April. It really doesn't matter if you're doing this now or doing this in a couple of years' time. But getting booked on a podcast is a great way to promote a product, a service, or promote yourself and make more people aware of what you're doing. If you've got a certain message that you're trying to get across. As I say, in this video, I am founder of a platform called Matchmaker.fm, and this is what we're going to be using to book ourselves onto 30 podcasts within 30 days. Matchmaker is exactly that. It's matching podcasters with guests. So you can sign up either as a podcast or you can sign up as an industry expert or guest. Free to join, go and check it out, Matchmaker.fm. That's what we're going to be using to do a lot of the legwork in this video. But before we get stuck in and start sending people messages and finding podcasts, I wanted to explain how I'm going to actually approach this. So basically, the main reason to get booked onto guests is either to talk about yourself, to talk about something you're launching, a product or a service, it could be a book you've just written, or a service, as in this case, Matchmaker. Like I just said, fantastic way to expose yourself to a very wide audience. So the first thing I need to do is really think about the target audience who I want to reach. And in this case, in this example, I'm going to split this into three different categories. The first is business people and entrepreneurs. The second is marketing and sales. And the third is people who are interested in personal development, public speaking, that kind of thing. Those are the three categories I'm going to be targeting because I feel like the audiences engaging with these types of podcasts are the most relevant audiences for our platform. Obviously, all the podcasts are going to be English language speaking. You could do this in a different languages if you want. I speak English, I don't speak any other languages, unfortunately, so I'm going to be focusing on English speaking podcasts. Doesn't have to necessarily mean they're here in the UK. I will be looking at podcasts in the USA, Canada, Australia, etc., and any other English language speaking podcasts. So those are the kind of prerequisites for the types of podcasts that I'm going to be approaching. If I can get 10 in each of these categories, perfect. It might turn out that I get 15 in one and 5 in another. That doesn't matter, but I'm going to try and get 30 in total over a 30-day period. Another thing to note, although I'm going to try and book and record all these podcast interviews within 30 days, it doesn't necessarily mean that all these podcasts are going to be available within 30 days because sometimes people work to a 2 or 3 month schedule behind when they're actually releasing them. Sometimes they're pretty much real time, you might get pushed out the following day or a couple of days later or the following week, but it varies depending on the podcaster. So the thing I'd say is don't expect necessarily to have results instantly. You might spend 30 days recording 30 podcasts, which then get probably dripped out over the next 90 days. So if you're trying to aim for a specific time or a date, you might want to do this a few months in advance. If you're going to say to the podcaster, well, listen, I've got a book that's coming out or a product or a service that's coming out on X date, don't just expect to record the podcast the week before and expect them to have something available on their schedule. So try and record as much in advance as you can. Because our platform's sort of evergreen and we're constantly trying to onboard users, really it doesn't matter to me, but I'm just setting myself a hardcore goal, 30 within 30 days, because I've got the time to devote to it right now. Okay, so next up, what I'm going to be doing is taking you through my pitch. Now, because I've chosen these three categories, which is, I say, business and entrepreneurialism, sales and marketing, and kind of personal development and public speaking, the pitch for each of these types of podcasts is going to vary slightly. Why am I doing this? Well, because someone who's interested in sales and marketing isn't necessarily going to want to hear the same thing as someone who's interested in maybe learning how to speak better or, how to get more public appearances, that sort of thing. So the pitch is going to all revolve around Matchmaker in one way or another, because ultimately that's what I'm trying to do as a result of this, is drive more business, drive more signups or users to our platform. The message is always going to be there, but it will vary depending on the type of podcast I'm on. So I'm writing 3 different pitches, and what I'm going to actually do is record 3 different video clips which I will send as part of this pitch, and each of these videos is going to be tailored towards that specific type of audience. I'm going to be talking to the podcaster about what I think I can bring to their podcast, why they should interview me, and why I think I'd be a good guest, and also the kind of commercial intentions of what I'm trying to do and the products I'm trying to promote. So without further ado, what I'm going to do now is cut to a screen recording where we're going to get on with some hardcore work here. I'm going to show you my pitch process and explain how I'm going to control and kind of tailor the story depending on who I'm contacting. And also the other thing is organization. I'm not doing this project alone. I'm working with my producer Graham, who quite often works on creating these videos for you and that sort of stuff. So Graham and I also need to be in sync, so we're fully aware of who we've spoken to, and because it's quite a lot of work that I'm undertaking here, we need to make sure we're being very organized. So I'm going to show you exactly how to do that as well, and how you can do it as part of a team effort. Perhaps you've got someone in your office, you might have a PA or a PR representative or someone like this. Well, I'll show you how you can kind of sync your diaries and make sure that everything is tickety-boo, and making sure that you're getting booked on podcasts, you're turning up for the right time, and everyone is fully aware of what's going on. So let's go on the computer and let's get to work, and we'll see how we get on. By the way, I have cheated a little bit because I have one podcast recording lined up for tomorrow, which I sorted out last week when I was planning this. However, that's it. So the rest of this, you're going to see me change outfit throughout this video because I'm recording it literally over a 30-day period and letting you know my results. But the first things first is let's get a pitch written and let's get planning. So cut to a screencast and we'll crack on. So the first thing which I want to do is talk about these pitches. Now, as I mentioned in the intro, I'm targeting 3 different types of podcasts, or 3 different audiences of podcasts. First being anyone who's interested in PR, sales and marketing. Second being anyone who's interested in business and entrepreneurship, growing businesses, creating startups, that kind of thing. Or maybe put and startups there, right? Finally, personal development, public speaking and personal branding as well. There are some similarities in these 3 different audiences. I've selected these audiences because for 2 reasons, right? Firstly, number 1, these are my areas of expertise and I feel like I can genuinely deliver value to these areas. The second is I want to be promoting Matchmaker as much as possible in these guest appearances. The idea is to drive people to sign up to Matchmaker. And I know that these audiences are all very responsive to the product we've built. You could sign up if you're in more of a niche category, but in terms of reaching the broadest amount of people, I think these 3 categories are going to be the best. So now I want to talk you through the pitches and how they're varying and how I've created a pitch for each category. Now, as you can see, this is a very simple document, okay? We've got 4 or 5 bullet points per category. And these bullet points are really going to form the basis of my pitch. So as I said, I'm going to record 3 different videos basically saying, here's why I think I should be on your podcast. And these videos will get sent out depending on who we're contacting. So in the case of someone with a podcast about marketing. So one of my prospects is a guy called Liam Quinn, and he has a podcast called 20-Minute Marketing. So I think for his podcast, we'll quite happily talk about 20 minutes about how we launched Matchmaker FM, and also, how we began growing a community. And we did this with very little budget. In fact, it was practically 0 budget to begin with. We've reached 3,000 users within a space of about 2 months, just a little bit over 2 months. We're using LinkedIn as a lead generation tool specifically, and it's been fantastic for us. And kind of want to talk a little bit about, how you can do that as well. And you could use that for any type of business, really. It doesn't have to be for launching a product service like Matchmaker. How to craft a message that converts. When you're reaching out to people, what can you say that will encourage them to actually take action? And also finally, just how you can use podcasts as a tool to market a product or a service. Now, this is important because ultimately I want people listening to the podcast to then sign up to Matchmaker. So we need to kind of bring it back to the product and the service. Next up, entrepreneurship, startups, business, these kind of ideas, how we tested ideas and how we validated that there was a demand before creating a Matchmaker product. Then how do you build a product that fills a gap in the market? How we are using it like a startup within a startup, because obviously the parent company Podcast.co also exists. And also just a bit about my background. This is going to be my 5th company within 15 years. Started when I was very young, still pretty young, 32 now. But, I started when I was 16. I got in at the right time, but I've had about 20 ideas probably over this time, 20 websites that I've built and created. Obviously, some have been successful, some haven't really been successful, but the key, I think, to being a good entrepreneur is trying different ideas and moving on quickly from the ones that aren't working. Sticking with the ones that work. So, kind of what's the difference between a go and a non-go? Those are kind of all topics that I want to talk about. They're all going to be themed around the topic of Matchmaker because obviously, as I said before, that's what I'm really promoting here. Finally, the kind of personal development, public speaker, branding, and maybe authors, coaches, these kind of people, targeting podcasts towards those sorts of people. We know that they convert really well into Matchmaker candidates. They're always looking for promotion. So basically, just talking about the idea of using podcast tours, just like I'm doing for this video, and guest appearances to dramatically grow your audience and grow your personal brand by leveraging other people's audiences. How to be a good guest on a show, and what to say, how to make your personality shine through. Can give some advice there, deliver some value for folks listening. Also, what do you need to know to sort of maximize every podcast opportunity? What's the right etiquette to use when you're approaching people? And, how does it work? Because again, a lot of people listening to these podcasts will listen to podcasts, but they'll have no idea that they could actually be on them themselves. Creating content, cross-branding, cross-purposing content for your own site, stuff you've been involved with, talk about that. And also, why are more people turning to podcasting, both as listeners and also as, speakers, coaches, authors, that sort of thing, during isolation and lockdown? This is something that's really relevant right now, and it's kind of on topic, on trend for the times that we are in. Obviously, this video is going to be an evergreen piece of content. You might be watching this thinking, God, 2020 was a crazy year. And I hope you are. But, right now, this is a relevant topic, so it's something that we want to discuss. So the next stage is I've written these pitches, and this is personally how I like to write pitches. I want to keep them short. We don't want to be wasting too much of people's time. I want to say, right, here's me, here's the benefits that I can bring to the table, here's what I can offer your audience as value, because that's important. You don't want to just be, promoting yourself. You've got to have some self-promotion in there, but you can do it in a clever way where you're actually talking about what you're doing, which is what I've tried to do, build into these pitches. And really, this is how I think we can, add value to people's podcasts, which is ultimately what it's all about. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to record 3 different videos, just very short, basically talking through these like I've talked through them to you now, and a clear call to action at each end of the video saying, if you'd like to get me booked on a podcast, I'm doing this in a certain time frame, please click on the link on your screen, and basically I'll be able to get booked in within the next few days. Slots are filling up quickly. Obviously, get in as quick as you can, that sort of stuff. Try and put some urgency to it, especially if you're trying to achieve a result like I am, 30 podcasts within 30 days. It's quite ambitious, but make sure that people are aware that you're trying to do this quickly. And ultimately as well, remember that not everyone you reach out to is going to be, I'm more than happy for you to be on my podcast. It's not going to be for everyone. That's why you have to write these pitches, because you need to say what you're going to bring to the table as a guest, and kind of like demonstrate your knowledge, your power, your area of expertise before you just kind of go, can I be on your podcast? So really simple. You can easily steal some of these ideas for your own business, your own company. Likewise, have a go at writing your pitches. If you've got any tips, by the way, of how to pitch for a podcast or how to pitch to be on podcasts, please leave them in the comments below. I'd love to hear your ideas of how you can effectively write a pitch to appear on a podcast. So next up, we're going to be recording these pitches, and what I'm going to do, so you can kind of get a weird behind the scenes angle, is I'm just going to show you what I've got set up and how I record these pitches. It's nothing fancy. In fact, I might even do it like I am now, just talking to the camera built into my computer. I might not even use the fancy camera that I've got behind me, if you can see that, just because I'm against time. I want to try and show you how you can just do this without a lot of time invested. You don't need a video editor. You can just do this yourself, click record, bang, get it out there and get it uploaded to YouTube. So without further ado, let's get into these pitches. Okay, so now I'm going to just record 3 videos using ScreenFlow. They're all going to be very similar, but as I mentioned, I'm going to make them try and sound like they're as direct as possible, as if I've recorded it for that person. Get my script up in front of me, so I've got a few kind of reference points. Make sure and remember to look at the camera as well. It's always a good tip. And we'll just do something like this. Hey, thanks for reading my message, and thanks for taking time to watch this video. I thought I'd just record this quickly for you to explain potentially what we could discuss on your podcast. So if it sounds interesting, feel free to get back in touch with me and we'll set something up. Thanks. So that was video 1. This is targeted specifically to sort of sales and marketing podcasts. Now we're going to record video number 2. This one is about sort of business and entrepreneurial stuff. Hey, thanks for reading the message, and thanks for checking out this video. I thought I'd just record a video because it's kind of quicker to sort of explain what I thought we could potentially discuss. Thanks for watching this video. All right, take it easy. Cool. Okay, now we're on to number 3. The third is people who have got podcasts about sort of public speaking, branding, personal development. And basically we're going to be talking about podcast tours, and kind of like the topic I'm talking to you about right now. So same format again, super friendly, directly to the camera, as if we've recorded this video for that one person. Hey, thanks for reading my message, and thanks for taking the time to watch this video as well. I thought I'd record a video just because it's kind of easier to explain perhaps the topics of conversation I think we could have for your podcast. So There we go, 3 pictures recorded in like 10 minutes. Just on my webcam, like I was saying, you don't have to have anything super fancy to do this. I'm using ScreenFlow here to just record my audio and video. Get a good microphone. I've mentioned this so many times in videos, but it does make a big difference. As you can see here, I can just run back through. You know, this is like a 30-day challenge. So this video is going to get edited out. I'll put the sort of finished results or clips of them in the video you're watching right now so you can see. And what we're going to do is just upload these to YouTube as unlisted videos so no one can see them apart from the people I'm sending them to. In fact, I might even not use YouTube, because with YouTube you can see how many people have watched it. So if we're going to send it out to lots of people, I might use another platform where they can't see the number of views. Just a little thought there. So let's get some editing done, and we'll crack on. We'll start reaching out to people. All right, so now let's look at how we can actually start pitching some podcasts. As you can see here, I've added some links in, and these actually take me to these videos that I've recorded. I've uploaded them to a cloud hosting service called Cloud App, which I use. I would recommend uploading them to a service where people can't see how many other people have viewed the video. This is why I chose this versus putting it as a YouTube video, just because it makes it look a little bit more like it's been tailored for them. But you could just put them up on YouTube if you wanted. But that's a link to basically the video pitch. So obviously when I say here is a video I recorded, explains blah, blah, blah to discuss, I just can paste that link depending on the podcast that we're going to be featured on. So I'm going to start off by showing you, as I say, I've split this into 3 different categories. So let's start by finding, say, a PR sales and marketing podcast. I'm going to copy that link, okay, and just paste it in here. Okay, so I've got my pitch ready to go. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy that to my clipboard. So to find podcasts, I'm going to be using a platform called Matchmaker.fm. Now, Matchmaker.fm allows you to sign up free, and you can create a profile as a guest. If you have a podcast yourself, you can also create a show profile for your show as well and get guests on your show. So it depends on which side of the fence you want to sit on. As you can see here, here's my smiley face. I've just signed up to Matchmaker. These are obviously the other guys who've just signed up recently, and these are the latest podcasts. And if I click on Find a Show, I want to show you how you can filter down based on categories. By default, you just see the ones, the podcasts that have just signed up to the platform. These are all like the latest sign-ups, if you like. There's people joining this platform every single day, so there's always lots of fresh podcasts that you can contact that you haven't perhaps been in touch with before, or you might not have seen. It's a fantastic way of not only getting in touch with podcasts to appear on, but also discovering new podcasts to listen to as well. If you know the name of a show, you can type it in here. Obviously, not every single podcast is listed on here. So the best way of filtering is really based on category. Now, because I'm looking for a marketing-based podcast, these categories, by the way, are based on the Apple Podcast category. So, we have sometimes people saying, why doesn't it have this category? For example, there's not a sales category, but there is a marketing category. So I want to search for marketing podcasts, and I want to search for them in, say, the United Kingdom. Although obviously the location doesn't matter, but you can basically filter based on subject, location. You can choose language and various other filters. Once I've done that, I click Apply Filters, and then suddenly I will see podcasts that are relevant to the category and the location that I've just submitted. So I can browse through these, and I can take a look at ones I think might be interesting. You can obviously click on the podcast. You can see a bit more information. This one looks interesting, Digital Marketing Punkcast. So if you want to check out the podcast and maybe have a listen to it, if you click View Podcast, it will take you to the actual podcast page. Obviously, you can scroll down, you can listen to episodes. The link based on the platform that they're on might vary. It might take you, this one's hosted on Podcast.co. It might take you off to iTunes, etc. But one thing, they always say is don't judge a book by its cover. Now, I think in podcasting, it's interesting because when you browse through these, you see some that stand out. They have a kind of a clear visual identity. They look a bit snappier, and others that perhaps don't look as sharp. And I think this one looks awesome. So immediately I'm compelled to engage with it. But anyway, I digress. So next up is, do we actually want to get in contact with this show? So now I want to contact the show. I'm going to hit Contact Show, and I'm going to request to actually appear on this show as a guest. So as you can see here, it says start a conversation with Digital Marketing Punkcast, and this is my message. Now I'm going to delete this message because it's just the generic default message. No one likes anything generic. You should always try and personalize it. And I'm going to actually paste in the message which I've crafted, my pitch. It says here, wondered if you'd be interested to have me on your podcast. Well, I'm actually going to go do one better than that. I'm going to having me on, instead of just saying your podcast, I want to say having me on Digital Marketing Punkcast. Again, the more you can bespoke and tailor and customize this message,
the more personalized it will be, and I think the more likely you're going to be to get response. So I'm going to hit contact show. That will then send the message off this podcast, and we'll see what they come back with. So now let's jump into the messages section, and as you can see here, I've got a response. Hi James, I'd love to have you on the podcast. In fact, you'd be a perfect fit, and it would be great to talk about your story from Radio.co, Podcast.co, and now Matchmaker. I think my audience would love to hear about the power of podcast marketing at the moment, and given the current pandemic, etc., etc. Right, so this is good. We've got a lead and we have a positive response to one of our messages. This is what you want to get. Obviously, as you can see down the side here, I've sent quite a few different messages. All right, so that concludes part number 1. We've established our pitch. We've found a relevant podcast that we think could be a good match for us as a guest. We've reached out to that podcast and we've actually had a response back from them saying, yes, we'd love to book you for the show. What's next? In part 2 of this video, I'm going to be showing you exactly how you can then organize your schedule so you're not going completely crazy, because getting booked on 30 podcasts in 30 days is no mean feat, and you need to be super organized about how you approach this. I'm going to give you some tips and show you the tools that I use to organize it, and also then give you a bit of a behind the scenes look at some of the podcasts that I've been featured on in this challenge, and also talk you through my setup and how I've actually recorded the podcast, what setup I'm using at home here to do it. So part 2, stay tuned. Hey, before you go anywhere, I have a quick question for you. Do you have a podcast? And if you do you want to book more interesting, high-profile guests on your show? Well, if you answered yes to either of these questions, I'd love to invite you to come and join our community over at matchmaker.fm. Matchmaker is a service that connects awesome podcasts just like yours with incredible and high-profile guests that make for really interesting conversations. It's really straightforward to get started and completely free to sign up. Just connect using your LinkedIn, Facebook, or Google account, and then you can begin connecting with guests based on their area of expertise, location, and much more. If you haven't checked it out already, go to matchmaker.fm, get started. It's just like Tinder, but for podcasters.